shooting down in the woods. He wouldn't leave it even if he could. 'Cause life is good, yeah!
Hey, Hickok45, your internet shooting companion, coming to you from Middle Tennessee. Yes, Tennessee, the home of Davy Crockett, Alvin York, and Dolly Parton. I always have to throw in Dolly Parton, don't I? I wonder why she always comes to mind. Oh, well, we're proud of her. We really are. She not only has been famous for being an attractive lady who sings beautifully, but she's also quite the businesswoman, songwriter, and I don't know if you're familiar with, what is it, Dollywood, yeah, over in the Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg area. And she's got a project, I think, going into Nashville here for too long. I forget what that's all about, but she's quite the gal. And we're proud of her, just like we are everybody else of note, or who is noteworthy, from the great state of Tennessee. So what we're going to talk about today in the Reloading Room Ramblings, I'm not sure, tell you the truth, but we'll probably index it as I figure it out. How's that? Of course, the most noticeable absence, of course, for me, is Gunner lying here at my feet and chewing on a bone. His bone's still lying there, and trying to keep him quiet, at least to an extent. You know, he would sometimes get to making so much noise and commotion, I'd have to, pause the recording here and calm him down, or get him out, or put him out, or do something with the goofball. But yeah, it's just not quite the same without old Gunner here at my feet, lying around acting goofy. And that's just part of life, but boy, is it hard. If you're a dog person, boy, a lot of you are. It appears from the comments. It really was amazing. I didn't expect quite so many comments about that at all. But they're just, most of us, let's face it, we just really enjoy our pets, whatever those might be. And in many cases, it's dogs. Little doggies or big doggies. It's just the way it is. And I guess a lot of gun people are like that, as I've said before, and you all know, gun people are people generally who enjoy life. If you enjoy getting out and shooting, and a hobby like shooting and firearms, I guess you're just as likely or more likely to enjoy pets. You try to get the most out of life, and they really help you get a little bit more out of it, I guess you could say. And as with children, it's always the case that somebody else's dog is not as what do you say, special or attractive as your own dog. It's once you get to know them, it's just different. And that daily routine and how they are. And I've had a lot of dogs in my life, and Gunner was just one of the best. He was just a character and a half, man. He was so sweet and calm at times, believe it or not. He'd sit here on the floor and just kind of lean up against my my case vibrator I used to clean brass in. I've got a little refrigerator here too. He'd just lean up against it and look up at me, those big eyes, and in his calmer moments, and just as sweet as he could be. You'd pet him, he'd just lean against it and almost fall over or push something over, the goofball. But now for those people who are not, inclined to enjoy pets, I know it's hard for them to understand, and there's not many of you out there, I guess. And then there's probably people who think that folks get too caught up in animals and dogs, and that there's real tragedy out there with people dying and that sort of thing. And of course, that's a good point. But we all go through that too, don't we? So it's not like we're putting animals over people, at least in my case. Although sometimes, animals are more desirable to have around than people, aren't they? No, you know what I mean. And I feel like I have earned my license to get attached to a pet, and to actually grieve over a pet. Maybe I'm just in my old age. I'm like a doting grandfather or something, but I'm afraid I'm going to get too or more attached to a pet than I ever have for some reason. But partly because John's, living elsewhere, and and then once your children move away, I don't think you're more likely to get more attached to a dog, kind of like back when you were single or before you had children. If any of you have been through this cycle, you've probably seen it. I've been there, where your dog is like everything, and you think, I don't want any kids, man. I just want dogs, whatever. Then when you have children, the dog takes kind of a back seat, and you realize the difference. And of course, there's no comparison in that regard. But anyway, most of us have it all in perspective. I've buried both my parents and my brother, and so I know what that kind of loss is about, and there's nothing that compares with that, of course. But I definitely also grieve to an extent over a dog, over a good dog. What can I say? It's all part of life, but it's not easy when you get really attached to things like that. And we'll miss old Gunner. And it's sure quiet around the place. Him not every time I come outside, or him bounding around the porch, and going on hikes. Anytime I'd go over to set targets, I mean, that was like his extreme delight. If he would see us, even hint that we were approaching, walking down the range, and he could tell. He could tell we were headed over there to set targets. Especially if John and I both were heading that direction, or if I had a can of paint and I started shaking the can of spray paint, it was like a signal to him. He knew there was a good chance I was going across the hill, and so hey, take off ahead of us. I'm not sure why. I guess when I think about it, usually when I had a can of paint, was shaking it up, I was going to paint on both parts of the range, not just the close targets, but across the hill too. And he knew that, so he was ready to take off. Bill. He's a funny character. Anyway, another segment of life there, and as I've mentioned in comments to some extent, I had intended to build some fence before I got to know the dog, Gunner, before him, and we have a really strange place, even with 40 acres. It's really a difficult place to fence in an area around the house and the driveway and everything without having 49 gates and complicated situations, and then with 40 acres, you hate to pet up a dog, it's kind of goofy, defeat the purpose of having all these woods and everything. So it's just been one of those deals. And then you have dogs through the years that like Bud, 8-9 years, Ginger, they don't get out on the road and get hurt. So it's just, so you get a little bit cavalier about it, I guess. But anyway, this time I'm definitely going to figure out something about the fence. And I tried the underground electronic fences and everything. That seemed to work. But this time we're going to have to do that before we get another puppy. And I need to get on that because, if I get one, I want to get one soon. And, be with him all summer here. But that's the way it goes. So I talk a little bit about that. I know a lot of you miss Gunner. I was surprised how many comments we did the video because I didn't want to be answering the question over and over and over and over again to people and what happened and everything like that. So I told John, let's just put it in a vlog, real quick, and then everybody will know, and that's it. And let's say just throw up some, you can find some footage of Gunner, he was looking cute or whatever, and so people just coming in will know. They can take a look at him and see what it's all about, why it was a big deal. He was a great dog, and and that's it. And I don't have to talk about it or answer questions and explain it again, unless I want to, like now on a radio show. So anyway, and get everybody at once. So that's why we did that, not to draw sympathy and all that kind of thing. But wow, just really brought out the dog lovers. There's a lot of you out there. So anyway, great dog, but we'll have to move on. I miss him every day. Every time I walk around out here, it's just just so obvious. A huge gap. I thought I'd talk about something that falls under the, I guess, category of being defensive-minded. All right, that's something that most of us that are into firearms think about, obviously, because if we're into firearms and we're proficient with firearms, just having the means to protect our lives is obviously there. Whereas people who are not into firearms at all, don't have firearms, they're kind of at the mercy of the villains out there, really, get right down to it. But even though the likelihood of being attacked is slim, percentage-wise, they're kind of at the mercy of that, of the numbers, the percentages. Whereas you and I are not as much at the mercy of all that. We have an opportunity to protect ourselves. But I'm going to talk about something a little bit controversial, probably. For me, it's not. And again, to each his own. But somebody was asking me in a message recently, is what brought this to mind, that I might want to talk about a little bit. A lot of things are in my head, of course, over the years, shooting, that I don't even think about. They're just things I know for myself, or philosophies I have about shooting that they don't even come to the forefront. But this is something it reminded me of. It's something that I observe that maybe some of you are interested in, or give you something to think about. And that is, someone wrote and asked me what my take is on shooting at targets with heads on them, humanoid targets. And I very quickly answered that. It's something I don't guess I've ever talked about in a radio show or in a video or anything. But I very quick answer that, and my answer basically was something. Well, a humanoid target is really not necessary. A target with a head on it's not necessary, so I don't have them. I don't use them. It's like, why? And for me, it's a why not situation, because I don't want to be sitting in court and that being flashed on the screen someday if it ever happened. You might hear the storm out here in the background. Instead of Gunner, now we have a storm in this radio show. But so I thought I'd just chat about that a little bit, my take on it. And some of you will disagree, and probably vehemently, about that, because I know it does bring up arguments. Well, here's where I think years ago, of course, I competed in IPSC, USPSA, and the IDPA and all those games. And let's see, the IPSC targets, cardboard targets, are more humanoid. They have heads on them, and I guess IDPA does too, right? I'm thinking of GSSF. The Glock matches did not, but the standard cardboard target with the cutout with the A, B, C, D zones and the head and everything. I had no problem. It matches, no big deal. And in the pepper poppers, the steel pepper poppers, if you're not familiar with that, that's the steel targets you see. Maybe you've seen them if you've not been to a match before. You see them for sale, and any videos you've seen of a IPSC match. They've got a circle in the middle. They're on a stand, and then kind of a head coming up from that. But they're made of steel. They fall over when you hit them. They're on a hinge. You can set them so they're hard to knock over or easy to knock over. Well, actually, not many of them are easy to knock over because they're usually pretty heavy steel. But you have to set them so they'll barely stand up if you're, for people shooting 9mm and whatever. So anyway, and I acquired some of those back in, it must have been around 1989 or 90, and had them on my range out here. I didn't have them very long at all, and I got thinking about it, and I had someone who does welding for me just cut the heads off. So I ended up with a pepper popper with no head, just the kind of the ball there on top, or the round part. And I still have those, some of those. I used to have a bunch of those on the range, and really not much else other than some plates to knock off. And I just did that because, well, for one thing, I'm close to the road, as you know. People can drive by and see the range. And I just didn't think it looked good, me out there shooting humanoid-looking targets necessarily, you know. And nothing I lost sleep over, and I still don't lose sleep over it, except it's kind of a why not situation. You know, what's going to happen if you're ever in a shooting, defensive shooting, and it goes to court, which it will. You know, I mean, the experts say it's almost a certainty. There'll be a civil lawsuit and all that sort of thing. Even the worst thug's family is going to drag out some ambulance-chasing lawyer, and then the only leg he might have to stand on, hopefully, is just trying to make you look like you're a villain or like you were looking to shoot somebody. You've been training to shoot somebody, and you finally got a chance. You know, forget the fact he was trying to kill you or something. But so I mean, that's sometimes all they can do is just try to make you look bad. You know, they're trying to get their client off or keep him from being executed or whatever it is. So if they can put in the jury's mind that you were looking for an opportunity to shoot somebody, in fact, Exhibit A might be a picture of where you practice or your range in your backyard, and lo and behold, there they have all these humanoid looking targets, and you're putting hits on their heads, you know. So I don't know, that again, nothing to lose sleep over, but it comes down to, why is that necessary? I don't use them, haven't 20 years. I just don't. My cardboard targets, you notice, are the what they call them, the tombstone style, and I don't think it's affected my shooting ability over the years. You know, I mean, my gosh. So I know hardcore people. I mean, there's people, the same people that refuse to get a carry permit, you know, because their constitution gives them that right. You know, well, they can argue that all day long too, and you know, we'll see them in jail. But yeah, they got a point. But you know, anyway, that's my take on it. It's like, why risk? That's all part of acting in a defensive mode, as far as I'm concerned. It's a little bit like the issue of what to carry. I get the question about what I think of the 10 millimeter quite often, and I like the 10 millimeter. I look at my 10 millimeter Glock as kind of a hunting gun. If I wanted to ever hunt maybe wild boar or something like that, I might think about using it. If I hike in the mountains, I carry a 10 millimeter. I mean, it's great. Think about it. You know, it's just perfect. I mean, you know, as far as a compact sidearm and having even high capacity along with it, you know, 10 millimeters is pretty nice. Either that or a 44 Magnum. And kind of like the 10 millimeter. I understand it's very popular, a Glock 20 in Alaska. So, but for carrying it as a defensive gun, you know, you got the same issue. It shouldn't matter what you carry, and it really shouldn't. But there again, it has a stigma attached to it to some extent, and some sleazy attorney, think about if he doesn't have much to work with, there's something he can hang his hat on. Oh man, he shot my client with a 10 millimeter handgun. Who carries a 10 millimeter? You know, the state police don't even carry a gun that powerful. I mean, yeah, they can just make a big deal out of it. Now, Masa Youb says there's good arguments against it, and you know, he has successfully derailed that argument in court. But you're not going to have necessarily a Masa Youb, you know, there talking for you, you know. And I don't know. It's the same old thing. It's like, why? It's not that necessary. Why do it? You know, that's the advantage of a 40 or a 9 or even a 45. You know, those are all fairly common defensive calibers. It's what your police department probably carries. So if you're carrying the same caliber that whatever 40% of the police departments carry, or 60% of the police departments carry, maybe even the same cartridge, bullet, you know, gold dot hollow point or whatever it is, PDX or something, Winchester, you know, there's just not anything they can do with that. You know, quick answer, huh? No, I'm just carrying the same thing the deputy over there is carrying. So So anyway, I look at all that as falling under the same umbrella, and you know, I know people will, some will laugh at it, but that's fine. It's all part of thinking in a defensive manner, to me. So I like a 10 millimeter, but I'm probably not. I mean, I have, you know, I've packed one occasionally, but it's just not going to be my normal carry gun for that reason. It's just not necessary really for one thing, although it's a great cartridge. And then again, the heads on the targets, you know, you just have to, in today's world, think about, you know, appearances. You really do, because that's a lot of it's what's going to come down to. A lot of people are. Do I have to tell you that people are easily swayed by smooth-talking politicians or attorneys? Do I really need to convince you of that? That a smooth-talking person can convince people about anything. And on the jury, you're not likely to have a bunch of gun-wise people. It's not going to be me and some of your shooting buddies on the jury. It's going to be Susie Housewife down the street, and Harry that works at the corner drugstore and has never shot a gun, maybe. You know, I mean, it's just the way it is. Doesn't matter how much sense it makes to you and me. It has to make sense to that jury. So anyway, that's my take on that kind of thing. It's like, why do I need a head on a target? Am I going to be tactically unprepared if I'm ever attacked because I've been shooting at targets without heads? If so, I guess I'll take the bullet for that. But I'm just trying to think ahead on those things. It's a little thing maybe, but again, it's like, why take the chance when it's not necessary? I mean, it's easy to be Mr. Tough Guy, you know. We see that all the time, and particularly in the shooting community. Let's face it, a lot of good folks sometimes get a little too rambunctious and a little too overconfident, perhaps. And you know, we are kind of an independent sort. You know, people who shoot and enjoy guns as a hobby. Obviously, if we worried too much about what everybody thinks, we might not even be into the hobby. We wouldn't, you know, collect guns or shoot guns maybe if we were too worried about what other people, more civilized people, think about it. Correct? But still, you know, to me, there's just no place for that macho mentality. You know, well, I'll shoot whatever kind of target I want. If they don't like it, that's stupid. Well, you can take that attitude, of course. Duh, I can take that attitude. It, you know, if you don't think any further than your nose, you know, you can take that attitude. But if you're thinking defensively, you know, that might be wise to think defensively about what firearm you're carrying, what kind of firearm you have, what kind of ammo you have, and what you're going to do in a desperate situation. And then the next desperate situation is going to be court, and how's that going to go for you? So you got to think through all of it, really. If you are truly a defensive-minded person, that's my main point there. Hey, how about the gun of the show? All right, I'm going to pull it out, unload it. Yes, it's clear. Let me double check. Yes. I'm going to even take this gun apart. I think I am. Yes. I want to look at the barrel. Yep. Looks like a barrel. There's rifling. I'll be darned. And that's a recoil spring of all things. I'm going to put it back together. And it's ready to go. Okay, it's hot. I'm going to reholster it. Alright, what can I give you as far as a clue about this gun? It's a pretty big gun and pretty powerful and a very effective gun. It is, let's see, I know a clue. It's one of Ted Nugent's favorite pistols. How's that? Let's talk about some recent videos. I mean, what the heck? Here I am in a reloading room. You're here with me. And I guess I do this every week, that I do a radio thing, the videos are what we have in common, so I guess it just seems like a logical thing to talk about. Oh, the rain sounds neat on the barn roof out here. It's fun to come out here and reload or mess around when it's raining like this and just hear the rain on the roof, because it's not an insulated barn or anything. My house has a tin roof. It's a log house. But, you know, it's funny, people will say, oh, that must be cool, you know, neat to listen to the rain on the roof. You got a tin roof, you know, log house. Well, actually, no. If we could lie in bed or sit in the living room and hear the rain beating on the tin roof, you know, then that means we need some insulation. It's one thing to hear, because a lot of people have been in a barn, you know, or a shed, and you've heard the rain hit the roof, but in the house, you know, it's a little bit different. You have hopefully some good insulation, so it's just not quite the same as it is out here in the barn. But it is pretty nice. It's great sound. But the videos is what we have in common. Did I say the videos is? Well, anyway, the videos are what we have in common, and that is our main form of communication, really. It sometimes a little frustrating, I guess, from my perspective, and for those of you who do videos, you know what I mean. It is YouTube, and you do a video on something, and that's really what you're doing. You're showing people about this particular gun, giving them the information you think maybe they want, that you want to convey about this firearm or anything you're doing. But then it brings on a million questions, right? So I was answering questions just a little bit ago. Some of the hundreds I get a day, I was trying to answer some of those, and somebody was asking me about their first gun, the usual question, and what kind of OD good and all that. And I don't mean to be a smart aleck. I can't devote time to every question, and I just said something. Check out the videos. I think you'll get some good ideas from the videos. I mean, that's why I do the videos. You get an idea of the size of a Glock 26 and what I think about a Glock 26, what I think about a PM9, and what I think about thumb safeties, or a gun like the Beretta 92FS. You watch those videos, and at least you get my take on it. Nice gun, a little bit large for a 9mm. I don't carry it. As you watch my videos, you learn that, and that's the main source of information. But anyway, that's kind of getting off the subject, I guess. But I thought I'd talk about a couple of videos we've been on recently. Actually, we've done some of the posted recently. Let me put it that way. As I do this, record this, the only video that we've posted since Gunner died is the 590, the Mossberg. And I did post a scout video, the Gunsight scout rifle, and CZ rifle that we had done prior to Gunner's demise. And we have a couple more, actually. Some other, again, I don't know what the posting order will be here, but you'll see some other videos we have had in the can that we want to get up. But a lot of bolt action, right? That Ruger Scout rifle is really a sweet gun. And one of the things that makes it sweet, I didn't even mention in the video, maybe I did in the first video with that gun, but is the trigger. It is a really nice trigger. It's not very heavy at all, so you can't blame poor shooting on the trigger with that gun. And the sights are decent, so that's half the battle right there. Very, very nice trigger on that thing. And of course the CZ, that is a really sweet little shooter. That gun doesn't even have a ghost ring sight. That was a gun we borrowed from a fellow, and I'd forgotten it didn't have a ghost ring sight. To tell you the truth, we made a couple of videos with that gun. That's been, I guess, a couple of months ago. And when I was looking at that long range video with it, I was reminded that I was just using the standard sights on that thing, which are tough for me with a lot of guns. So it's a real testament to the quality of those sights. That is for sure. Because I really much prefer a ghost ring or peep sight, for iron sights when I can get it. But that is a sweet little gun, no doubt. And the thing is not very big, but as I think I mentioned in the main video with that gun, that CZ rifle, the gosh, I forget the model number. It's been so long since we had 527, I think, since we did the videos with it. But the stock is unusually long for the size of the rifle. So it's a great little gun for me because it has a nice length of pull. Probably is, I don't know, close to the same maybe as that Ruger. And on the Ruger, the Gunsight Scout rifle, you notice if you've not looked at those, they have inserts for the stocks. You can adjust the length of pull. There are 3 or 4 little spacers that you put in, between the stock and the butt plate. So you decide what length of pull you want, which is wonderful, as you know, for me, because I have stuff slipped on, stuck on every rifle and shotgun I have to get the length of pull to where it feels comfortable to me, being 6'8". And so, that little CZ is wonderful, the way it's made. And the shotgun video, oh man, I love that 590 A1. That thing is just so much fun to shoot. Well, shotguns are anyway, just in general. There's something about it, isn't there, if you're a shooter? I think a lot of people who hunt don't really ever have that fun with a shotgun as much. Maybe, I don't know. I got started playing with a shotgun, gosh, at an early age, really out in the woods as a kid. But when I first started shooting competitively in IPSC type matches, actually it was before we started the IPSC club here in Tennessee, Middle Tennessee. We were having matches for a couple, 3 years in various places. And one location in Clarksville, we would have our pistol match, but we'd have side matches over on the other side of the trees. We'd have some pepper poppers and things set up and just have kind of speed shotgun matches. We'd have a pump class and a automatic, semi-automatic class. And I mean, that was fun. There were 8 or 10 of us that shoot those every month. We'd bring our shotguns and go do that. And that was just so much fun. What a blast. And ever since, I've been addicted to shooting steel with a shotgun and doing that kind of thing. And in fact, I got a little story to tell on that at some point when I bring out my first Spyderco, but that I've not done a video on yet. But that's a fun gun, no doubt about it. And again, I'm surprised every time I bring out a shotgun and shoot slugs, all over again, how it is like a rifle almost, poor man's rifle. Just surprising, with a smooth bore barrel, how well a typical slug operates and performs. It's pretty amazing. And again, I think I mentioned in that video, or I think I was trying to mention it when I had my little, it wasn't a hang up, it was kind of a hang up, and I should have talked about that in the video. If you, in that 590 A1 chapter 2, there was a point where I was loading it with slugs, and I actually pulled out my pocket knife, and the last one didn't want to go in all the way and everything. That would not be a good situation to be in. Something to think about, and I should have addressed it right there. I was too busy thinking about other things in the video, but when you think about that, and in a video like that, I don't count shells or count, no big deal. But generally speaking, with a magazine tube, here I'm off on a tangent again, but you put in 6 or 7 or 8, whatever something holds, and you're not counting, and so I end up just trying to stick the other one in. It goes about halfway, and it's pushes you, okay, and you leave it on the table and go ahead and start shooting, or whatever would happen. You could be walking through the woods, you could be in combat, you're loading, trying to top off your shotgun, and it won't hold that one, it doesn't go in, you put it back in your pocket. It just springs back into your hand, and it's not going to go in. It's very clear. How many, we've done that, all of us have done that hundreds of times, where that's how you know it's full. That one won't go in. Okay, put it back in your pocket and go on. Well, in that case, as you noticed, it almost went in. It just lacked like 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch, and it didn't pop back out. It was kind of hanging up things. So that would be something to be concerned about and figure out a strategy for there if you were going to battle the slugs, at least slugs of that length, because as I showed in the video, those slugs were just a little bit longer than field loads, so it wouldn't quite hold 8 or whatever it was, but it came close. That was a problem. It came too close. It came close enough to holding it that, well, it did actually when I finally got it pressured in there, but and it could have been a bad slug. I don't know. I didn't inspect any of that. It might have had a bulge or something. I don't know, but I'm more inclined to think it was just they were so long that it was really a bit of a stretch to hold 8 or whatever it was, and you wouldn't want that to happen in the wrong situation. That's what I'm getting at. Okay, you'd want to plan for that. You'd want to experiment with whatever ammo you're carrying and know how many it holds and what's going to happen when you get it almost fully loaded. When you're down to that last round, is it going to go in halfway and just not go in and you throw it away or put it back in your pocket, or is it going to almost go in like that one did to the point where it could hang up on you and cause problems? So just something to think about. I'm not a big tactical guy, but I am, in a practical sense, that's something I would want to experiment with, and I will actually with that gun. That's my bedroom closet gun. So anyway, just something there to point out. But that shotgun's fun to shoot. Enjoy the heck out of that. And as I said in the video, we're going to have to think of more reasons to get it out. And of course, I shoot a lot of these guns off video. But then again, if I'm going to get one out and just really have fun with it and play with it, I hate not to put it in a video. Yeah, because I know thousands of you would enjoy seeing it. So it's a weird thing that I've got myself into here, where I've been shooting again right here, for 25 years. Isn't it a strange world? This world of the internet, everything. I'm here at the reloading bench, and so much of what we do now, as I look around and different things lying around, one reason it is hard to keep this place straight is because we're always preparing for another video, or we have remnants of the video around, or just different things. It's just things have changed so much in the last 2 or 3 years, whereas I was doing the same stuff prior to that, just reloading ammo and shooting right at the same place. And the video endeavors have kind of changed our priorities in some ways. But anyway, I digress. But we've had fun in some of those recent videos. We got some we've done in the last day or two as well that we've not posted, and you'll be seeing. So, and we got lots of things to do, lots of ideas, and you'll be seeing some more crazy stuff. One thing I made a note to maybe talk about are TV shows. I guess I'm not a big TV guy. I tend to watch two things more. Two things really. The news. I watch, just have the news on generally a lot, or movies. And if it's not a movie, it's a Western. That's just kind of the way I operate. And I get the Westerns channel, and I hope many of you do. I hope none of you gets the Westerns channel and you don't even know it. Okay, that's some of you younger folks maybe, but check around. If you get the Westerns channel, it's one of the stars, I guess, channels. But now there's some old stuff that it can almost turn you against Westerns. I realize that. I like Gene Autry. My dad loved Gene Autry, and of course he was born in 1918. But some of that old stuff might not be your cup of tea. I understand that, because it's a little bit of a stretch for me. The acting is it's almost as bad as my acting. It's like C-grade acting, and they're riding down the trail playing a guitar and 4 or 5 guys singing a song. You run into some of that, in those older serial westerns, some of that kind of stuff. And John doesn't like that at all, even though he likes westerns. But just a lot of good stuff, and some of the old series are wonderful. That's one of the cool things about it. It takes me back to my childhood, seeing those old episodes of Gunsmoke, and recently they started running Rawhide. Now that's one I had not seen in, over 40 years probably. I remember when I was like 10 or 12 or whatever, 13, that was on every week. That was a big TV show. It was like an hour long or something, once a week, I guess. And it was the one where Clint Eastwood got his start. He plays Rowdy Yates in there. And I remember when that was on, I was 10 or 12 or whatever again, and I remember, Rowdy Yates was my favorite character in there. Everybody loved Rowdy Yates. He was kind of the scout for the wagon, not the wagon train, the cattle drive. It was based on cattle. Wagon Train is another series they're running right now. That was one that, same thing. I remember watching that with Dad. And the whole family, as far as that goes, back then. And the scout for the wagon train was always an interesting character. Just like in Rawhide, was about a cattle drive. And Rowdy was he was the ramrod. I don't know if he was a scout so much as he was the ramrod. He kind of ran things. But, oh man, shows like that just take you back. And they were good shows. Good shows. Pretty good plots and good acting. Just well put together. If you get that, check that out, because even if, again, you're young and you're not a nut about westerns like I am, I think you'd enjoy some of those, especially Gunsmoke. What a classic. Of course, you got to keep in mind there's those old series. I record them all, DVR them, and then I go through them. And on the weekend, I try to catch up with them as best I can when I get a chance. Because they were, back then, you just had 3 channels, essentially, and the whole family watched them. You didn't get as much, the blood and guts, if that's what you're looking for. And in the westerns, you didn't get as much of that anyway. But you kind of tell. You'll run across an episode of Gunsmoke or Rawhide or anything where there's not going to be any shooting. It's when Gunsmoke, for example, you got Chester as a deputy, and then you had Festus later on with it. If you see the title is, there's something about Festus orders a mail-order bride, and it's all the drama surrounding that. Well, again, it was a family show, and it was just something like that's going to appeal to the kids and the wife and everybody back in 1958, when those things were showing and that kind of thing. But then most of them were the good old, cowboys and maybe bank robbers. You had a mix of things. But don't judge them based on just one. If you happen upon an episode of Gunsmoke or Rawhide or whatever. Now, currently, there's one show that I like. John likes it, and my wife likes it, and that is Justified. I don't know if any of y'all catch that, but that's a pretty interesting show. Particularly folks like me, us from Kentucky and Tennessee. Some of the characters they have in that show coming out of eastern Kentucky, and they seem so real. Boyd Crowder and some of those characters, they are just they're cast so well, and the writing is good. And there's some interesting scenes regarding firearms. So if you haven't seen that's on FX, I believe. It's called Justified, and the guy who plays the U.S. Marshal in there, the protagonist, the main character, was a sheriff in Deadwood. If you've seen was it the HBO series Deadwood? He was in several episodes of that. I liked him in that, and I can't think of his name. Tim Oliphant, something like that. But he's a good actor, and carries a Glock, of course, U.S. Marshal. and it's kind of a modern day Gunsmoke sort of thing. Obviously a little more drama and the kind of action than they could really get by with, but that's kind of the way it is. And but a lot of it seems fairly realistic, so you might catch that recorded if you haven't seen it yet. It's running right now in terms of new shows. I guess there are 4 or 5 shows in this season. It runs, when does it run? It runs Tuesday nights at 9 o'clock Central Time, because I have one I'm going to go in and watch tonight that we recorded earlier this week. I've not seen the one from this week, and I look forward to that. So I don't know, just thought I'd mention some TV stuff there. That's part of my entertainment when it comes to firearms and all that sort of thing. So well, some of y'all probably watch those shows too, or would enjoy them if you get them. If you're contemplating right now as we speak, I guess, a new cable system or something. That's what I look at. All the cable systems and satellite programs. They have 1,000 channels of this and all these different programs, packages. But I look for certain channels. Unfortunately, it's usually one of the more expensive packages. But I look for certain news channels or like the Western Channel, that kind of thing, and that's what I want to make sure it has, because I don't watch that much TV, and I want to make sure it's got what I want to see. So anyway, take that for what it's worth. And speaking of young people, let me get more serious about that, I guess, for a minute. And a little note here I might talk about, because young people, whatever that means, and I think of teenagers, maybe even, I don't know, folks, maybe early 20s. I doubt that very often, but I think if you could include people who have not been around firearms very much at all, but I was reminded this week with some youngsters, teenagers, getting all fired up about firearms and something that I was involved in with my profession. Some kids, some boys that I was working with that were all hepped up about some shooting or machine guns or faking some stuff like that. Anyway, and disturbing a little bit some other people. And my point here and advice is, anytime we can, I'm really talking to adults here, there might be some youngsters listening. If there are, please take heed. But it's our job, I think, to keep youngsters calm about firearms. In a school setting or anywhere, it could be in a church, youth group, or just anything. It's our job to keep the boys reined in to some extent, and remind them that firearms are fun, but they're also dangerous potentially, and that they are responsible for, as you and I are, representing the shooting sports the best way we can. Well, what happens, of course, when you're 10 years old or you're 15 years old and you watch movies, speaking of movies, and you watch all the shoot-'em-ups and you play all the video games and everything else? Well, sometimes, the adults maybe in your life don't do any of that. They don't care about shoot-'em-up movies. They don't play video games. But the kids, the boys mainly, are pretending they got machine guns or something, and are shooting and stuff or whatever they're doing. Well, I think it's been long enough now since Columbine and all that we're not quite as paranoid as we were there for a while. It's kind of like 9/11. Remember the months after 9/11, if you spilled some sugar in the coffee room, or something, you almost had to call the hazmat people to come and check it out. You got really stupid and crazy. If a kid was drawing a picture of a gun at school, he's sent to alternative school. I guess there's still places like that, probably California or somewhere in Berkeley. But I think we've calmed down a little bit about some of that stupidity. However, still, what I do when I can, if there's some boys that they're getting a little bit too fired up about talking firearms, And I see the adults, especially the moms or somebody, kind of looking at them like, what's going on with that? What's all that about? Yeah, I like to kind of pull them aside and remind them about the real world. Maybe this falls under something I talked about earlier, the heads on targets. I don't know. But there is a PR issue to what we do, and they don't need to be scaring anybody or any more than we do. But I had a boy, for example, several years ago in class he'd probably be a Navy SEAL. I mean, he would talk about gung-ho, and he was just going through school in order to get out and join the military. And I mean, he was a little G.I. Joe for sure. And immature, obviously. Kids are immature. Duh. But, and he wasn't very tactful or diplomatic. He would say things sometimes in class that would scare the other students. Okay? And, I don't know what the video games or TV or where it came from, but he would say things that I sort of got him, I sort of understood him. He was just kind of an immature kid, but he was a little bit over the top on some of that, and the things he would say, and it would scare you a little bit of the kids. And so I pulled him aside one day, and he wanted to be a shooter badly. He wanted to shoot guns. He was just into airsoft at the time. And I had a little chat with him about all that, and I think it did a little bit of good because he knew I was a serious shooter. And I think we all need to do this and keep our teenagers and our youngsters kind of on track, so they don't even though hopefully everybody understands, teenagers are crazy, right? But I just kind of stressed to him how, you gotta, if you like guns, you want to shoot, you want to get into firearms, as soon as you can, or as you get older and everything. You just need to learn some things about the shooting world and the world in general, about how some people are not very familiar with firearms. Firearms scare a lot of people, and even though you're young, you still want to be careful about what you say regarding firearms. You don't want people to be afraid of you, and because a lot of people don't hear anything about firearms very well. They don't even want to hear anything about firearms. So I think if you are a young person listening to this, and probably not too many really young people listening to this, just keep that in mind, that you want to be tactful, be smart. You don't want people to, even if you enjoy shooting and guns are fun, they look like fun, you haven't been able to shoot a gun yet, but you love the video games and shooting in the video games and everything, that's all fine. Just chill out and cool it. Be aware of where you are, your environment, and other people. Be aware that a lot of people are not nuts about firearms. They're not crazy about, an MP5 or an Uzi or whatever it is that you're seeing and would like to shoot. And don't scare people. Don't have people looking at you wondering about you. Cool it, because if you want to be a shooter and have it as a hobby and be able to shoot almost anything you can afford, we got to work on the PR side of that to some extent. And so anyway, if you're a young person, just for whatever that's worth, and if you're around young people, just whatever you can do to keep them in line. So we want them to be our ally, not help the enemy, the anti-gun forces out there, because it is a PR issue to some extent. Speaking of guns, the gun of the show is in my hand again. Let's take the magazine out. Yep, still hot. Well, yeah, I was talking about the Glock 20 earlier. That's what it is. Those who know Ted Nugent and have read his book, I can't think of the title now, but I read it on a trip several years back. But it is the Glock 20 10mm. Speaking of 10mm, just happened to have it out. Was maybe going to take a couple shots with it, but that's what it is. Good old Glock 10mm. Haven't had it out lately much, and we need to do another video with that thing. Another thing I was going to talk about a little bit are the posts, or the frequency of postings lately. Well, I always feel like we're doing the wrong thing when I post like 3 videos or 4 videos one week. It's such an irregular kind of thing we're doing. I get time off here and there, and John and I can get together easier, like over Christmas vacation, and we did several videos. In fact, that CZ rifle video was one from probably over my Christmas break. So I've had that a while. And I've talked about this before, how our posting schedule gets modified from time to time, and we'll have videos, maybe 5 or 6 videos that we've done because we were able to get together for a few days, and then we'll have another video we've done that we want to go ahead and post, and so sometimes we'll have some videos with a little bit of age on, like it really matters, right? But the frequency will vary, and what I would like to do is, one of the reasons I'd like to have 4 or 5 videos in the can, who knows, I may get sick, anything could happen. John's unavailable for 2 weeks or something, so we can just kind of continue with our, scheduling, and posting a couple of videos a week, like we like to do. And that's kind of our thinking, a couple of videos a week, and go from there, along with a radio show maybe, or an FAQ now and then, which is a video, but our FAQs are usually pretty short. But anyway, we've had some kind of built up here, and so I did post, this week we may have 4 videos posted. So, but again, don't expect it, please. If we go several weeks and have 1 video a week, it's because that's all we can get together, and this is how it is. So I haven't gone away or decided to give up posting videos or making videos, but it really can. It could be anywhere from 1 to 4 any given week. Just keep that in mind, please, because we don't want the pressure, of that. We want to enjoy this. If it gets to the point where we don't enjoy it, then it just won't be the same. So, and we do enjoy it. And we're fortunate to have so many subscribers, and again, where we can support our habit. That's the main thing, because we get through a lot of ammo and trade around a lot of guns and stuff, and so we're able to do that thanks to Google and YouTube. So it's obviously it's worked out better than we deserve, right? And I know there's a lot of people dying to have a big channel, and I get messages all the time, asking for advice. How'd we do this? I don't know how we did it. We just make videos and people watch them. I don't know. It's just so we appreciate what we have, and we want to keep it going. It's fun to do, and I'm going to be retiring pretty soon from teaching here, and have more time to do it. So as long as it can support, as long as we can keep the habit supported, we're going to keep doing it. And as long as you guys keep watching, as long as you're crazy enough to turn on the computer and watch our shenanigans and enjoy seeing lead slung down range, we'll keep doing it. But we, again, I guess I say that pretty often, but we do enjoy it. It is fun being able to just do what I do what we do, and for people to enjoy seeing it. I mean, my gosh, it doesn't get much better than that, I guess. I mean, essentially, people pay to see you do what you do, when you'd be doing it anyway, at least to some extent, maybe not on as big a scale, right? And it's great that John and I can work together doing it. He really has some skills. Ironically, he really has some video editing skills, doesn't he? Here we're known for kind of our reality channel, where we have all these 10, 15, 20, 30, I think even a 40-minute video that's unedited. We just turn on the camera and go on most of them. But in my back pocket here, I have one of the best video editors, on YouTube, I guess, as he demonstrated in the recent cowboy video. What we call that? John gave that the title. Wild West Epic, or I forgot what it is now, but meaning a story, not that it was an epic video. That's why epic wasn't at the beginning of the title. That would mean something else. That would mean we thought that was an epic video and that we were, sounding like a 10-year-old, right? But it was a, kind of a story and whatever. But anyway, and we didn't really spend a lot of time on that. But, John has a sense of the angles pretty quickly, and, wasn't that painful for me to watch. Yeah, because how we do most videos. Turn on the camera, we have an idea where we're going to go. I never know exactly what I'm going to do or even what I'm going to say, of course, but and just go with it. So that's a different approach when we do those. I guess I don't enjoy doing those as much, and that's of course what most people do. That's the video business, really. That's the movie business and everything. If you watch someone make a movie, or you make these yourself, that's what it is. It's a series of the little angles and clips that you get. And so when we do that, John is really good at that. As you know from the rapid fire videos, hopefully you've seen those. I have those in a playlist. The 3 rapid fire videos that John edited from various videos we had done. In fact, I'm glad I thought of that. There's so many new people. We have hundreds and hundreds of new people every day. And that's something I should put on the list. I get a lot of questions, or I see a lot of comments that indicate so many people are very unfamiliar with most of the videos, and I hope people will go back and work through the playlists and just work through all of them. There's almost 600 videos, and there's no difference really. I mean, if you go way back, maybe the very early ones are, some, I don't know. I say not as good, but I don't know. They're not bad, and so hopefully you get through all of the videos. Not just look for new releases. But and then one thing those rapid fire videos do is they give you an idea. People look at those or the montages, and I'll get questions. Wow, where'd that video come? Where'd that gun come from? Or what video is that from? I don't know. I don't have time to go back and dig them all out, but you can see from the montages, any of them, that especially the 3 rapid fire videos, that there's a lot of stuff taken from a lot of different videos that probably you haven't seen. So. And we're working on a little a quiz. We keep talking about this for about 2 years. We've talked about doing it. We've just never done it. We don't do a lot of contests. We did one parody contest, but we just don't do that kind of stuff. And we probably should occasionally. We've talked about doing a kind of a quiz, kind of some kind of fun quiz for the people that have seen all the videos, and just I don't know, 5 or 10 questions, and see who can answer them or answer first or something like that. I'm not sure what we're going to do. If you got an idea for that you think would be fun for for everybody, you can suggest it. But we're thinking of something like that. It might be kind of fun. We have a lot of people that have seen all the videos. That's for sure. And we could. There's just some great questions. Whenever we talk about that, both of us come up with a couple of really, really good questions. I guess it's the teacher in me. I love to have a good question for my students, and we may do something like that. I don't know. Don't do a lot of contests, but something that's fun, we might do it. So look for that maybe. And let me remind people again that I have shot, most of my life, and I like to shoot a lot. And I can usually get a bullet in the vicinity of where I'm trying to hit. In the vicinity, at least. And I don't mean to exercise false modesty or anything like that. There really are a lot of people who can shoot very well. I'm not some weird aberration or anything. Again, I didn't start this some of these videos, shooting long range, different things to show what an unbelievable marksman I am or anything like that, because there are a lot of people who can do that, and some better. It's just that I have a place to kind of demonstrate what these guns will do, and what and just see some decent shooting going on. Okay, never really started doing this to show off. Just have fun shooting, and I mean it's always fun to shoot well. It's I guess there is a showing off element there. I don't know, but man, there's nobody more aware of all the good shooters out there than I am. I was in competition with them, lots of them. I shot alongside a lot of state champions and regional champions, national champions even a couple of times. I was watched shoot, in the same squad with me, and IPSC shooting and different things. So I know where I am in the great scheme of things. I mean, I'm not bad, but there's people better than I am, and so that's all the more reason why well, I'm not going to get into this target distance and all that stupid stuff. Somebody was doubting that the gong was really, or the 230-yard target was 230. Some guy from Italy, you may have seen that posting on. That's why I overreacted on that, probably. Like, that's the least of my concerns, is to try to fool people into thinking I can shoot at 1,000 yards or something, or exaggerate a distance or some stupid thing like that. It's fun to show what the guns will do, and it's just a lot of fun, if you've ever shot at long range, to launch a bullet at a long distance and then hear it hit. It's just cool. That's why most of you enjoy seeing videos like that, where there's a delay between the time you fire and it hits and all that kind of thing. It's just another fun element of guns and shooting, and it's mostly just showing how even a short pistol will do that. That's why I was interested in trying it with the Glock 27, whenever that was, a couple of years ago, shooting at 230 and all that. The Glock 23, and what was it, the Commander, I guess, the 1911. The various guns I've shot at 230 yards, and did videos with. It's mostly just showing how accurate and how how accurate those guns can be, on a good day, and also in keeping with dispelling the myths that it's the shooter, not the gun, in 99% of the cases. I mean, especially standing and shooting. That's again one of the themes you see in the videos. I don't do bench rest shooting. I don't, I don't even rest a pistol. I do everything offhand. That's my whole orientation. I mean, I might do it sometime, but I mean that's my main orientation. And 99% of the cases, when you're shooting that way, talking about how accurate the gun is from a defensive standpoint is almost silly. It's almost silly. So, so I don't get into conversations much about how much more accurate one pistol is over another. Whether it's a Glock or a SIG or an H&K, or which one's more accurate. That really does get a little silly. Unless you are putting them in a ransom rest or something, and that's important to you. So, but anyway, man, I have shot with some people you would not believe. They just really take it to the next level. And I mean, it's been a while. I mean, I can hold my own with most of those people. They're not going to embarrass me. But in terms of speed, obviously, there are folks that are burning 1,000 rounds a day. Just trying to pop 5 plates faster. Shave off a half a second, a tenth of a second, a hundredth of a second, whatever. So I enjoy shooting too much. I did that for a while, but as I think I've said before, I enjoy so many different types of firearms that I got to a certain point in IPSC shooting where, and I had some success. I won some guns and won a bunch of matches and placed high enough in big matches to bring home guns and things. So I had some success. but I never did have enough desire to take it to the next level because of what it would have required. It would have required me spending hours and hours with a timer and burning a lot of rounds, shaving off a tenth of a second on my draw, it just, over and over and over, for that kind of game, which, it gets beyond, it's called practical shooting, but it really gets beyond practical, at that point. And I wasn't as interested in going further with it, really for that reason, as much as anything. When I came home from a match, I was, okay, that was fun, a good time. Now where's my lever gun? Let me get out the 45-70. I couldn't stand there with my 38 Super and just work on that a lot, all week. I just couldn't do it. I've always shot a lot, but most of whatever success I had in competition was mainly based on the fact that I was just very familiar with firearms and shot a lot. And it does transfer, if you spend a lot of time with a pop gun, it does transfer to some extent. I just like a lot of different types of firearms, the history behind them and all that, and now I have no regrets for not trying to go further with that, because I have thoroughly enjoyed the last 20, 30 years especially, where I've had some cool guns to just go out and plink with, the ones you see in videos. To me, I'm enjoying the sport of firearms, just to me at the highest level, because I'm playing with all types of firearms, from a flintlock to a Glock to a souped up Ed Brown to what else, all these guns that I bring in. I've had several SIGs I've demonstrated, and the little pocket guns and all that kind of thing. Partly as a result of the video endeavors, I would not have had as many different firearms as I do if it were not for that, because we're trying to add some variety and get a lot of requests, of course, for certain types of firearms, and so we try to meet some of those and everything. But anyway, a lot of people can just blow your mind with a handgun. It's amazing what they can do. And again, on a good day, I can shoot pretty well, but it's just. That's just kind of where I am in the scheme of things, and don't ever want the channel to be based on, marksmanship necessarily. It's just hopefully I can hit what I want to hit when I'm 70 years old. But it's not based on trying to come up with the next most unbelievable shot. Like at 1,000 yards or something with a PPKS. Who knows? Maybe we'll try that. But anyway, I just want to remind you all of that. You young shooters, you new shooters, it's like anything else. If you get into something, you realize that there are people at all various stages. I used to play a lot of basketball, and some of you that played a sport, you know what I'm talking about. You think you're pretty good. You might even play college ball, baseball, or whatever it is. Then you get up against a professional pitcher or someone, and whoa, that is definitely the next level. There are people that have skill in certain endeavors that you don't even realize. You don't even know what you don't know. You don't even realize it. Most of you, for example, probably have no clue really how good, say, an NBA player is, unless you played basketball at a really high level. The 12th man on the bench, the guy who never gets in a game, on the worst NBA team, is unbelievable, generally speaking. Unbelievable, That's so. It's just kind of that sort of deal. There are people that compete in IPSC, the Grand Masters, they're just unbelievable shooters. They just really are. Look at Rob Latham or any of the guys; they're just phenomenal shooters. But anyway, I ramble a little too much, don't I? Let me wrap this up. I think I've gone pretty long this week, but just chatting about this and that. Kind of a rainy day out here in the reloading room, and I need to be reloading instead of yakking. But we're going to do some shooting this weekend, over the next week. Have some have some fun. I hope. I've got a few days off. So we may do some videos, and we'll see what comes up from that. But enjoying it, and we've still got the slide fire stock. We might do a little more with that. Enjoying all the new stuff, the 300 blackout, and you name it. I'm enjoying it. If it slings lead and copper, you know I'm enjoying it, right? We all have a good week, and I'll yak at you again sometime. Appreciate you listening and watching and listening and watching, and helping with the channel in any way you can. Answering questions. Feel free to jump in and answer questions. Anything that you know. Lots of experts out there. And again, help me keep the trolls away or down, suppressed as much as possible. And we'll keep it going. So, I'll talk to you later, man. Take care. You've been listening to the Hickok45 radio show. See you on the range.